crap, guys, would you look at that shit? She didn't drive the Corvette to work today. I actually came home and the Corvette was still sitting here. That's amazing. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty, I want to take a moment and say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to this channel, who's still watching this channel. Honestly, I thought when I got rid of the truck, I would take a lot bigger hit than this. And I did take a hit. I know some people left. I think I lost maybe 40 subscribers over the last 2 months. But the good thing is I have gained about 800 subscribers over the last 2 months. So that is outstanding, guys. And I want to thank all of you for staying with me. I want to thank all the new subscribers who've come to the channel. I want to thank everybody who has went to the Facebook, the group page on Facebook, and become a member there, and to everybody who has shared any of my videos. Thank you guys so much. The channel's still growing. I couldn't do it without you. Now let's get to the topic of this video. Guys, so welcome back to Bad Luck Garage. I want to have a little chat with you today. The chat that I want to have is, you know, I was talking about ordering the headers and the X-pipe for this thing. Well, I got it narrowed down between the Manzo and the Speed Engineering headers and X-pipe, and I just want to talk a little bit about both of them and let you know that I have officially ordered the headers and X-pipe and which one I ordered and why I finally decided on the one that I did. Here's the deal, guys. I know when I first posted about getting eBay headers and X-pipe for this thing, you guys blew that freaking thing up, man. I mean, I don't know how many of you people were saying, go with Speed Engineering, go with Speed Engineering. Well, you know, that's awesome. And I've actually got a set of Speed Engineering headers for the LS Swap Nova sitting in the garage. They look like a quality product, and I've used them before on, you know, other things. They seem like they make a good product, but I had a couple issues with them, and I didn't know about this until I started researching them, but I'm going to go over those right now. But with the Speed Engineering headers and X-pipe, there's a couple issues I have, but my biggest issue is that they are not bolt-in, okay? They're not direct bolt-in. They have several slip flanges. They have no flange to bolt to the catback, okay? So with the Speed Engineering stuff, what you're expected to do is you're expected to cut off the length of pipe that connects your factory mid pipes to your catback. You're expected to cut that off and clamp it into the Speed Engineering X-pipe. They have little collars there that adapt down from 3" to 2.75 inch. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but the problem is that means if I ever want to put the car back to stock for whatever reason, then I'll have to have that piece of pipe remade. So that was my biggest thing. The second thing is all the slip flanges and the clamps themselves. Now, after reviewing a bunch of reviews on the Speed Engineering X-pipes and headers for this car, pretty much everybody said the same thing. The clamps suck, the exhaust leaks like crazy. And they were saying, you know, they were recommending getting like the big wide band clamps from the auto parts store, or even ordering them from Summit or something. And, you know, that's going to add an additional $40 or $50 to the cost of the exhaust system if you have to buy 6 more of those band clamps. So right off the bat, I was not liking the Speed Engineering. Another issue is it has no mounts, guys. Most of the other exhaust systems, including the Manzo exhaust system that I was looking at, they all have mounts. They utilize the factory mounting points under the car from the factory exhaust to hold the exhaust up. Speed Engineering has 0 mounts, okay? So what's really bad about that is all the slip fittings they're not only trying to hold the pipes together, but then you've got the weight of the exhaust, which I'm sure it doesn't weigh much, but you've got the weight of the exhaust pulling down on those slip connections too. So I didn't like that. And finally, the third thing I did not like about the Speed Engineering setup is it only has 3 O2 bungs. It has the 2 front sensor bungs, and it has 1 bung for a wideband in one of the mid pipes. Now, that's not a big deal because there's not going to be cats, so I'm going to have to go in my tune and delete the rear O2 sensors anyway. But you know, if I did want to add high flow cats or something back into the system at a later point, then I would also have to weld in more bungs to get those rear O2 sensors screwed back in. So those are the 3 things that I did not like about the Speed Engineering setup. Now, the things I did like about it is, although every review that I read said it leaks and there's no mounting points and all that, you know, everybody pretty much complained about what I did, especially about the rear flanges, having to cut off a section of their old exhaust to, you know, to have the flanges that they needed to you know, fully mount the system. In my opinion, that's just poor design, guys. I mean, come on, Speed Engineering. You could have added 6 more inches of pipe and welded a couple flanges on there so it was direct bolt on. I mean, honestly, that's just lazy. But the things I did like about the Speed Engineering is everything I read said they fit great. They said, you know, they're a perfect fit. People were also saying that they had no trouble installing them. Like, they were able to just slide both sides up from the bottom, you know, so they had no issue with that. And of course, I mean, it's still an eBay company, guys. Speed Engineering is an eBay company, and you know, the shit's still made in China. But even though, you know, they do have a physical location in the U.S. in California, I think, somewhere, but it's still Chinese made parts. But they're building a reputation, okay, and their reputation that they're building is pretty damn good. So, you know, that was my pros and cons with Speed Engineering. Sorry guys, I had to go pick up my daughter from school.
Hi.
I don't think I can see you over there. For the Manzo exhaust, and I'm going to go backwards with this. With the Manzo, I'm going to tell you why I'm considering it over the Speed Engineering, and then I'll tell you what I don't like about it. So the first thing that grabbed my attention about the Manzo header and X-pipe setup was it's completely bolt-in, okay? It already comes with the flanges, it reduces down, and it has flanges, so you don't have to cut any of your old exhaust out, all right? It bolts right in. In the whole system, there's only 1 slip fitting. The first connection from the headers to the X-pipe is like a ball and socket connection, which I also like. Then there's a slip fitting section between the X-pipe and I guess you'd call it the mid-pipes in the back. But then the mid-pipes actually come with flanges that bolt up to your factory or aftermarket catback. So like I just said, you know, you don't have to cut off a piece of your factory exhaust and reuse it. And to me, I mean, that was a winner right from the start. The second thing is the Manzo exhaust system actually comes with 5 O2 sensor bungs. So it's got the 2 bungs for your front sensors in the headers, it's got 2 bungs for rear sensors in the X-pipe, and then it's got an extra bung for a wideband already welded into it in the X-pipe. So, you know, that looks pretty enticing too. Third thing I like about the Manzo is, you know, I did the same thing I did with Speed Engineering, and I went online. I've been doing this for 2 weeks, guys. I went online and I read up, and I read, you know, about people who have installed it and things like that. And the problem I was having was I really couldn't find, but maybe a couple of people who had used the Manzo headers and X-pipe and actually wrote a review or something like that on it. But the good thing about that is everybody that did write a review, it was a positive one. Everybody said that, you know, they fit great, they were easy to install. They were especially talking about how it was just direct bolt in, which makes things a lot easier, and no leaks, guys. Like, I bet I read 20 reviews on the Speed Engineering headers and X-pipe for the C5 Corvette with people complaining about exhaust leaks from the slip flanges and, you know, the clamps being too big. So no matter, you know, you tighten them up till they were bottomed out and they wouldn't squeeze the pipe enough to seal it. None of that with the Manzo. Every review, although there weren't many, I think there were like 3, but all 3 reviews that I read with the Manzo said they had no leaks, it fit great, direct bolt in, you know, all that. So right from the get-go, I was thinking, you know, I'm just going to get the Manzo. I mean, it just made more sense. It's going to be easier to install. I'm not going to have to mess with cutting and reusing parts of my old system. You know, that just made sense to me. All right, daughter's dropped off at the house. Now I have got to go get my son from band practice. So like I was saying, the Manzo exhaust was a clear winner, but it had a couple downsides too. The first downside is, although I really like the ball and socket setup, as far as, you know, to clamp the headers to the X-pipe, the bad thing about a poorly designed ball and socket setup is, you know, it's a flow restriction. And looking at the pictures of the Manzo setup, it looked like the ball, instead of being flared out, it looked like where the ball end came back down was actually a smaller diameter hole than what it started out as. Like, it looked like it was 3-inch, and the outside of the ball was 3-inch, but inside the ball dropped down to like 2.5. So that's a flow restriction right out of the header, guys. I mean, right at the end of the collector, it's already a flow restriction. And speaking of flow restrictions with the Manzo setup, let's talk about those flanges that I was just saying were a positive, okay? Now with the Speed Engineering, yes, you have to reuse your system, or a piece of your old system, but it comes with a reducer from 3-inch to 2.75-inch that gradually goes down. I mean, it's nice smooth flow. With the Manzo exhaust, it drops down to 2.75 inches right before the flange that bolts to your factory or aftermarket catback, but it doesn't do it gradually, guys. It's like a step. Okay, so looking at that, I was like, well, that's flow restriction number 2. And the third thing was the price difference. The Speed Engineering headers are, I think at the time I was looking at them, they were $369.99 on eBay, of course, and the Manzo exhaust was like $469. So the Manzo exhaust cost a whole $100 more than the Speed Engineering. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to buy clamps for the Speed Engineering because everybody complains about the leaks from the crappy clamps that Speed Engineering sends you. So that's another $50 right off the bat. And if I have to, you know, if I still have issues, because I'm thinking I'd probably rather just have the pieces that I cut off of my factory exhaust rather than have another joint there to leak. I'd probably rather just get it up there, tack it, take it down, and weld it all the way around, so I eliminate, you know, that one joint. So having somebody weld that for me, you know, that's an additional expense too. Suddenly the price difference, you know, was negligible because, you know, with either system, it was going to end up costing me about the same. As a matter of fact, depending on who I get to do the welding for me, the Speed Engineering could end up costing me more than the Manzo by the time I install it. So we won't call that a negative. We'll just call that a wash, guys. We'll just say the pricing ends up being even between the two after you fix all the deficiencies of the Speed Engineering. after taking all that into consideration, there was one thing that finally made me decide which one I was going to get. And that was quality of product as far as the materials used to make the products. And what I found out was, while the Speed Engineering uses 304 stainless, the Manzo uses 201 stainless, which, from what I understand, is actually considered like substandard. I mean, I know every other stainless steel header that I've ever looked at is always made out of 304 stainless, or some of them are made out of 4 something stainless, but I have never seen a header made out of 201 stainless. So I started researching it and looking it up, and apparently the 201 is, you know, I'm not going to say it's substandard, but it's not as good as the 304 stainless as far as you know, holding up, I guess. I mean, it's considered the weaker of the two, and that right there was enough for me to finalize my decision. And yesterday I ordered the Speed Engineering. So you guys are going to get what you want. We're getting the Speed Engineering headers and X-pipe, and that's what we're putting on here. Now, I do want to say there were a couple other things that might have swayed me a little bit, and like one of those things is I was actually able to find dyno tests with people who had used the Speed Engineering headers on stock LS1s, and used the Speed Engineering headers on you know, in the C10 trucks and stuff, which really doesn't even equate because it's a totally different design. But the fact of the matter is, I know the Speed Engineering headers are supposed to be good for about 25 wheel horsepower, give or take, you know, 5. But you know, the results for that are out there, guys. You can Google that stuff. But most of the people who did before and after dynos comparing the C5 X-pipe and header setup from Speed Engineering, they picked up in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 horsepower at the wheels. So, I mean, when you're talking about something that costs less than $400, might have 450 or 470 in it by the time I get it all installed and hopefully leak free, that's still less than $500 for something that's going to give you an additional 25 or 30 horsepower. And I think that's pretty good. I mean, honestly, that's pretty good bang for your buck. The only other two things that I could think of that would give you that kind of, you know, gain for that price would be a professional tune, which I want to talk to you about, and you know, nitrous, of course. You can get way more than that for that amount of money, but we've already got the nitrous system. But as far as a professional tune, guys, you guys know I've never touched a dyno in my life. I just street tune all my own vehicles. But I'm thinking what I might do is I might do the street tune initially on this, and if I can work a deal with my local dyno, after some runs with that, we might take it in there and actually see, you know, what they can do. I mean, I'm sure they can make more peak power than I will, because they can monitor things more precisely on the dyno, you know, the effective timing and things like that. But I want to know how much more power they can get me under the curve. You know, I want to know what I'm missing out on in what actually matters, which is that power under the curve. You know, peak power doesn't mean shit, guys. It really doesn't. But it's, you know, it's that mid-range and you know, the power below that. That's what makes your ass fast. You know, that's what I've said it 100 times, guys. That's why you've got 700 horsepower cars outrunning 1,000 horsepower cars in roll races and stuff. But the important thing is, we got our exhaust ordered. I actually have my line lock waiting to go on here. I'm just waiting on one other thing before I put that on. You know, the nitrous system, you know, I've had that for what, 15 years. I mean, so we've got our nitrous system. I'm going to be doing videos on all that. But yeah, guys, I'm kind of happy that I finally made a decision on the header and X-pipe, though. Anyway, guys, as always, if you like this video, make sure you click like. If you want to follow this build or the Nova build or any of the other builds, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell, turn the notifications on so you know when I put out a new video. Thank you for all the subscriptions, guys. The channel's been growing great. I'm really happy about that. I really want to thank you guys. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for watching, but it's time to go. So get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.